Hundreds of civilians have fled their homes in South Sudan's Yei River State amid 4 days of deadly clashes between rival armed opposition groups. Fighting erupted Friday between the National Salvation Front and the SPLA-IO. An SPLA-IO spokesperson confirmed that fighting continued Monday and accused the National Salvation Front of attacking SPLA-IO positions. Meanwhile, the government of South Sudan has endorsed the September 12th revitalized peace deal as required by the Constitution. Now, for more on South Sudan politics, I'm joined by Brian Adeba, Deputy Director of Policy at ENAF. Brian is also a native of South Sudan. Brian, welcome back to Africa 54.
Thank you.
First of all, your thoughts on the story that we just ran about both opposition figures and the government's people on side profiteering from the ongoing civil war in South Sudan.
Yes, it reinforces the fact that across political divides in South Sudan, corruption is prolific. And it reinforces also the idea that those who are behind this corruption should be held accountable. Even though we have a peace deal right now, the peace deal does not contain very strong provisions in it that will stop this corruption. And without this corruption being stopped, it will incentivize another war. And so it behooves of the international community to keep an eye on South Sudan and ensure that the corruption that originates from there is stymied.
What about the neighboring countries where some of these, generals and figures are said to be hiding? They live in, they have a lot of money. I mean, life goes on well for them. So it's like they don't really care about this deal, that it has been revitalized. The war goes on and they continue to benefit. Who brings them to account?
So the role of the neighboring countries is very important. Corruption in South Sudan needs third parties to ensure that it actually occurs. And the financial sector in Kenya and Uganda is crucial to this looting of the state in South Sudan. It is important that the government of Kenya and Uganda take steps to ensure that the financial sector in Kenya or Uganda does not become a facilitating organ for the looting of South Sudan. And this is very important because for Kenya, for instance, which wants to build itself as an economic powerhouse in the region, if its financial sector is not secure, if its integrity is in question, then that plan, that idea will not succeed.
Now, Brian, maybe in 30 seconds, when do we expect to see this revitalized deal really take shape? When is Riek Machar returning to South Sudan?
Well, there is a provision in the agreement that says there's a pre-transitional period, which is 8 months, and then the transition period kicks in, and that's when he will return to South Sudan, hopefully.
Brian, thank you very much, as usual, for talking to us on Africa 54. Brian Adeba is Deputy Director at Policy at ENAF.